Hi, Denny Johnson again, and this is the continuation of a study of the father's family. Now the reason we do this is that the current science of epigenetics really is about how emotional stressors are actually transferred to future generations, tagged onto the DNA, that have the capacity to cause disturbances in the body or the mind, and to produce diseases or pain or suffering. So sometimes the understanding about how this works is useful to be able to begin to possibly change it. What can we do to change it? This part of the study of the father's family is really about one sequence. The sequence is called 531. What this is really about the three grandmothers from the father's family. This is the father, his parents, and the great-grandparents, your great-grandparents. Now, in this model, these three different great-grandmothers and grandmother, they're involved in different body systems. Each one of them represents a gland, an organ, a body system. Now, each one of them has its own genetic memory and ways that it can affect you. These three are actually linked. And when they're linked successfully, certain things in the body that are very necessary, they work well. For example, father's mother is related to digestion. Father's mother's mother is related to the immune system and the lymphatic system, and a whole series of relationships about how that affects digestion. This is where many of the allergic reactions to foods manifest. Now, the other grandmother, called grandmother number 3, father's mother, that's related to the liver. It's also involved in the processes of assimilation, so digestion, assimilation, and a whole series of other things like how to regenerate the body. It's about healing. It's about a particular organ called the liver. It's about how the body feeds itself, protects itself, and heals itself. That's why it's so important. And yes, your own personal feelings about your own father affects your ability to access it. Yes, sooner or later, everybody has to get over whatever their pain is about their father. He wasn't good enough, or I wasn't good enough for him. I'm not loved. He's gone. He's not there. He didn't play with me. All of our many excuses about how our relationship to our father was not quite good enough for him or for us, or so on. And his relationship with his own mother affects his system. His relationship with his father affects his system. There are memories here that affect you. Now, what this is really about is, what are some of the things that you might be able to do to begin to change the memories that are there? Can you change memory codes that are up to 150, 60 years later? Is it possible to be able to change or influence the epigenetic qualities that are basically in your great-grandparents? Like, for example, my great-grandfather, he fought in the Civil War. Well, I mean, this is 150, 160 years ago, something like that. You know, there's a lot of influences about how these memories come through the family tree. So one of the ways of beginning to change this influence, because you might want to change it, is to at least begin to recognize that they exist. Okay, they exist. They exist not only because they're in every cell of the body, but they exist because, well, they're alive. Okay, I know they're not alive, most of them physically, maybe your grandparents are, but most great-grandparents, for most of us, they've already passed. But just because they've passed doesn't mean they're dead. They are souls who exist, and many of them may be hanging out around you, so sometimes being able to resolve some of this, it helps you get through things that are important to you. So that said, how do you influence a great-grandmother that you never knew? Well, one of the ways of doing this is exactly what you're doing. You're looking at the map, you're considering the possibilities. Does genetics make sense? Is it possible? Is it really possible that emotional patterns from 150 years ago, they can in some way influence my digestion, my body, my health, my relationships? You have to ask yourself, Yes or no? Does that feel right? Well, science says it does, but does it feel right? Okay, so for me it does. So I'm in the process of saying, look, could I actually take my attention to a great-grandmother that I never knew and begin to change the memory there? Well, I'm suggesting to you that it's not only possible, it's very, very useful and beneficial to begin to change what you have received genetically on the epigenetic molecules that are attached to your gene code. You might be able to change this. Now, I'm suggesting a way of doing this is changing your feelings about this in a variety of ways that I have found that I believe works for me, and I've seen other people change as well. A change sometimes is a change in a symptom. The remission of a disease is also possible. I've seen many remarkable things happen when people change these memories. So how do you change a memory? Identify one possible place in the family, increase your attention or your feelings about it. Now this is part of the continuation of how this technique has been explained in much more detail in the Healing Sequence series. So there's a whole series of things leading up to this point. Now this one is specifically about how to change this for these three grandmothers on your father's side of the family. At another time, I'll show you how to bring them together and produce some interesting experiences for yourself. And then what's really possible is that you're also changing these memories for 3 generations after you. Is it possible that your feelings, your understanding, your knowledge is transferred for 3 generations into the future? This is basic genetics. Yes, you will transfer your genetic memory if you have children, and you will influence the people around you. Now, these 3 grandmothers, they are also related to a gland, an organ, a body system, and they correspond to symbols in nature. Because all around us, the symbols in nature, like the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom, these are significant correlations to different attributes in my own body. They correspond to, for example, the mineral kingdom outside corresponds to the mineral kingdom inside and its capacity to develop my own proteins and my digestion, because we live on minerals, basically. So does nature. Everything around us basically lives on the transition of minerals passing through their development, whether they're plants or animals. Okay, that's why the mineral kingdom is so important. Now, the mineral kingdom for me has to do with one particular grandmother, my father's mother. Now, many of you would already know your father's mother. If you don't, because your father didn't know her, or she's gone, or whatever, you can actually change your feelings about her just by feeling her, or learning about her, or focusing on her, or talking to her, asking her own feelings and memories about the past. But whatever you hold with her, it also has a lot to do with how you feel about yourself. Because this place is also like the bones in the body, it's at a very, very deep level. So the great-grandmother of number 5 is the mother of your father's mother, and these are all related. This is great-grandmother number 5, this is great-grandmother number 3, this is grandmother number 1, and they all work together. So the mineral kingdom feeds the plant kingdom, feeds the animal kingdom. Now, I've used these types of diagrams to help you get a feeling of what it looks like for me. Energetically, the number 5 great-grandmother is related to what I call a very broad diameter. That diameter is global. It's a global feeling of the interconnectedness between all living things. So all the animals, all the birds, the fish, the reptiles, the insects, they're all part of an ecological unity. There's more and more of this now. 40 years ago, we didn't think in these terms of ecological unity or global. I mean, we were just kids. We only thought about what was in the neighborhood. But now we have global systems of communication that you're well aware of. And everybody's instantly aware of what's going on somewhere else in the world. So we have instant communication. But in reality, I'm always feeling and communicating. All of us are connected to the ecological continuation of all life. Much more about this, because this feeling of connectedness and unity, it affects how your immune system functions. So you might be able to focus on this great-grandmother and feel your own connectedness to all living things. Is it possible that imagination can supersede what memories this great-grandmother has? Yes, I personally believe it to be true, but why don't you test it? Focus on a great-grandmother that you never knew and practice feeling her. You can feel her with your heart. In this case, you can feel her with your throat or the head. You can then extend it out into nature and feel compassion for all living things. And what you're actually doing is you're actually taking your attention here and you're accumulating more and more focus and feeling there. You change your perception. She's not really dead. She's actually a soul that's alive. You're doing a lot of remarkable things just by increasing the attention there. Now, while you're there, there are some options. You could visualize her as being 25, young and alive. You might even use what I call, the magic words. You can say, well, thank you for being my great-grandmother. I never got a chance to meet you. Feel her. Very important to consider how that affects you, your health, your well-being. Then do the same for grandmother number 3, because she corresponds to the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom uses the minerals from below and feeds the animal kingdom. The leaves and the fruit and the flowers of the plant kingdom, they not only feed the animal kingdom, they heal medicinally. Not only the animal kingdom, but you. The plant kingdom is responsible or capable of healing any physical condition within the body. So the plant kingdom really facilitates this movement. This movement here has to do with well-being and personal capacity for stability and harmony and justice. These are very important places. They're not just always body systems, glands, and organs. They're feelings. Do you belong where you are? Do you belong to the community around you? Do you like your own body? Are you willing to deal with it? This is the influences. These 3, they have a strong way of combining together. They combine their influences together. Their combined flow is why we call this the descending yang, or masculine. The descending forces, if you want to get the feeling of it, just it's like the feeling of a large tree with leaves and how they're processing the carbon dioxide and producing little sugars through the photosynthesis, and all of this is now coming down into the trunk, coming down, and then eventually these roots go into the earth to repeat the process and start the experience of coming up again. This is the process of how the descending yang works. Yes, you can increase your appreciation for one part by increasing your appreciation for this great-grandmother. This is the plant kingdom. This is the health. This is the liver. The other one, father's mother, this is about the bones. Yes, you can take all of these feelings that you have globally, bringing it down to the experience of your own community, down to your own family, and then down into the bottom of your spine, and the entry into the bones of the body. Because this process leads down to the experience. That's why this symbol is shaped like this. So you can do all of this. Now, when you're really ready and you want to do something very important, not only can you begin to do this to change what's happening, you can make some personal choices. For example, You can focus on one of them, one of these great-grandmothers or grandmother, and you can say other remarkable things. Show me all the unresolved feelings here. Now that's a major thing to consider. I'm giving you a tool or process which is designed to be able to change symptoms, but really what's here is about feelings. Many of these feelings are hidden from us, but they still affect us. One of the ways of actually finding these feelings is to ask. I won't go into what the belief system might be about what you're asking. Whatever you believe that to be, from your own intelligence to your own soul to the divine or God or whatever, you can use your own free will to ask to know the truth about what feelings exist in this part of your family. Now what that does is begin to change what comes to you from around you. That's called the law of attraction. Now you will begin to attract situations or people that will give you the opportunity to feel what's unresolved in your own family. So this is an introduction to what is on your father's side of the family and the three grandmothers associated with the descending yang forces. Later, I'll show you how to combine the grandmothers from the mother's side of the family and to begin to move the water kingdom inside this process. Why would you want to put water inside of all this? Well, water, which corresponds to feelings, by the way, is the primary vehicle by which the minerals move and the food moves. We are basically a hydraulic pump. This hydraulic pump is moved by the water. The water is primarily regulated by the mother's side of the family. But for now, just wanted to show you this part to give you a chance to get started. Then we'll come back and bring together the water inside the bones. Yes, I know it's a little different, quite unusual, but you give it a try. Just close your eyes or keep your eyes open if you want. Ask, feel a great-grandmother and say the magic words. Thank you.